Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today we'll be taking a look at the Trumna. The Trumna is practically an arc gun available to Warframes for free. Sadly though, it is acquired from Father in the Necrolisk at rank 3. You also need to be rank 3 with the Ostrons and Cetus to get all the blueprints, but it is definitely worth it for this super powerful weapon. The actual gun itself though is ridiculously strong. As you can see, it has absolutely no issues dealing with the steel path. It sort of fires like an A10 most people compare it to. It comes with an 8 heat, but when you get to its secondary alt fire, this explosion that it shoots out can be compared to the Kuva Brahma, except 10 times better. The secondary fire on the Trumna is absolutely busted, and it is very easy to charge up, only requiring kills. You can do such crazy things with this, like one-shotting an Acolyte. So why don't we move on to the actual weapon itself in the simulacrum. Now the Trumna is literally an arc gun that your Warframe can use for free, and you can immediately tell that when you fire its primary firing mode. The recoil on this weapon is crazy. To get around this, every single build today will be using the Stabilizer mod and the Excel slot. I would say that this is almost necessary for the Trumna, as it reduces its already insane recoil to something much more manageable. Besides that, the Trumna is an automatic trigger machine gun with a 200 base mag and a moderate fire rate. You won't be running out of ammo very often with this weapon. It also has innate heat, which frees up a mod slot, as heat is one of the best solo elements, and it has one of the most satisfying reloads in the entire game with that signature M1 Garen ping. It also has a 1.8 meter explosion of pure heat damage on the bullet's final contact point, which does allow you to crowd control and deal damage a little bit better to big groups. The alternate fire, on the other hand, launches a grenade that explodes in a 6 meter radius upon impact with a surface or enemy. It also can bounce up to 7 times. Multi-shot also scales how many grenades you shoot out in one trigger pull, so more kills equals more damage. The actual stats of the Trumna are relatively impressive. A Riven disposition of 2 means that it is worthwhile to use Rivens on this weapon, although they will cost you a lot. 24% critical chance with a 2.2 multiplier and a 30% status chance is very great at making this weapon a hybrid weapon. Radial attack also does possess the innate heat, but its total damage is lower than the primary fire's non-AoE, which does make Galvanized aptitude worth it on this weapon even if it doesn't affect the radial attack. The secondary fire stats are even more impressive, sitting at 38% critical chance with a 2.4x multiplier and a staggering 50% status chance. The radial attack obviously attributes most of the damage, all of that being heat. The first build I have to show you guys today is a raw corrosive damage build. Very good critical stats on the multiplier and chance, paired with galvanized scope, which wants headshots, and then on top of that primary deadhead, which means for our base damage we need to get headshots, all synergize very well. The critical and damage stats on the secondary alt fire are also absolutely insane, and it pretty much one-shots everything. I'm using high voltage and malignant force, but if you can fit infected clip and stormbringer, use those for better raw damage, although the status chance that they provide is not a bad thing here and does actually help. On this build for fire rate, we are using Prime Shred. Now this adds punch through, which does a couple weird things on the Trumna. Without Prime Shred, obviously we get the normal version of the primary fire mode, a big AoE or 1.8 meter AoE that can affect multiple enemies. With Prime Shred, we apparently lose that explosion for punch through. Personally, I find this to be a bit of a DPS increase, as that explosion was not contributing to much of the damage anyway. But the odd thing is that the explosion is still there actually. Shooting this gunner right here shouldn't be damaging the one to its right, but in fact it does, even proccing another status effect and then getting the heat on them, and obviously I wasn't aiming at them in the first place. This is why I think Prime Shred is the best fire rate mod for the Trumna, although some usage cases can be made against it. A mod like Vile Acceleration provides more fire rate at a loss of crowd damage. Which, compared to Prime Shred's version, in my opinion, there really isn't much of a competition, although some punch through does mess with the alt fire of the Trumna. When you have punch through on the Trumna, the alt fire's grenades will go through the floor and it causes them to do weird things like that. Personally, I don't find this to be that big of a detriment, although I can see why you wouldn't like that. I just like the punch through it gives to the primary mode for crowd clearing. Compared to Vile Acceleration though, I find the difference to be negligible and not that discernible, which is why I like to use Prime Shred. The raw power that you feel when using this Trumna build is what makes this gun so fun and so likable to me. Obviously, being a Galvanized and Arcane build, it takes a little while to build up. Once you do get those stacks up, you can start just 2-tapping enemies. And pairing that up with the punch through on it means that it is an absolute monster for crowds, alongside giving the heat status Ignite, which obviously crowd controls them. And the secondary fire is obviously nothing to be scoffed at, hitting reds easily because of Galvanized scope. The next build today builds for viral instead of corrosive, and it does function a little bit differently compared to the last one. For base steel path, in my opinion, the corrosive build is much stronger, but the viral with slash and heat will scale much better since slash ignores enemy armor, and heat is great when paired with viral to increase its damage. If you want to take your Trumna much higher than the first couple hours of Steel Path, you can, and while the alt fire is also still good here, personally I am just more a fan of the corrosive one, especially because it kills a little bit faster at the beginning of Steel Path. Because we are building for viral, we definitely want Hunter Munitions. Paired with the Trumna's base high crit, you will be getting this a lot. Prime Cryo Rounds and Malignant Force obviously give us our viral, and then we use a Bane of Corrupted to get a double dip on our DOTs. Since we are killing with damage over time effects like Slash, we use Merciless because Primary Deadhead does not function with those very well. I have another variation of the corrosive build though. If we drop Hammer Shot and use Galvanized Aptitude, even though Aptitude does not function on the alt fire's huge radial attack and the radial attack of the primary fire, I think that this is very worth it, as it allows the crowd clearing nature of the normal bullets of the primary fire to do that much better. Galvanized Aptitude increases your base damage of your Trumna the more status effects you have of an enemy. This allows you to 2 or 3 tap pretty normally, but this isn't where most of the strength of this mod comes from. Most of the strength from this originates from when you use a primer. This will allow your Trumna to 1 tap pretty much anything. Even these enemies stand absolutely zero chance with a bunch of status effects on them like this. It's pretty funny, to be honest. The damage is also so overwhelming on the alt fire that losing out on Hammer Shot's bonus is not that big of a deal. But again, this does require you to prime your enemies with an outside source before using it, and if you don't feel like doing that, it's always good to just stick with Hammer Shot, as the critical and status chance that this mod provides is fantastic for the Trumna. Running the Trumna on some just normal steel path right here, and its power is just very immediately so clearly present. I mean, if I want to alt fire these guys and just delete all of them, I can. If I want to use my primary fire and just dock on my way through them all, charge it up, alt fire, and like clear everything. Some use case can be made against not using prime shred so that you get the maximum fire rate, because if you see a big crowd, you're just going to alt fire them. I just like it though. But besides that, I don't really see many issues with this gun. It's just really damn good. It is not that easy to get though. I will say that the grind to get this thing was so goddamn annoying, having to get the Seraglass shard and all those Deimos parts. I'm so happy that I have it now, because I'm literally never going to go back there. If you thought this video was over though, you are sorely mistaken, because I have not shown the most broken interaction between this weapon and the frame that I'm currently playing, Zephyr. For some reason, and don't ask me why, it might have to do with the damage redistribution, but if you shoot enemies that are in Zephyr's tornadoes with the alt fire of the Trumna, it fully refills the bar if you get enough kills, which is not hard, and this allows you to spam the hell out of this ridiculously high damage grenade shot that one taps pretty much everything. There is a bit of a variation on this build compared to the normal corrosive one, because we play a little bit differently when using this build on Zephyr. The build here does not utilize any sort of headshot thing like Galvanized Scope or Primary Deadhead, because we will not be getting headshots on enemies that are in the tornadoes. We do in fact use Galvanized Aptitude because of how the tornadoes transmit status though. Pairing up a Panzervolpaphyla for the viral status effect, and then obviously the tornadoes will redistribute everything we do with our epitaph to every enemy, allows the damage from Galvanized Aptitude to be ridiculously high. And that was the primary mode with practically no stacks right there. At first it might seem like the fire rate on this build is not that great, but when shooting an enemy and hitting a crit, you will see that we proc Arcane Acceleration for 90% more fire rate. This Arcane gives us 90% more fire rate at a 30% chance on a critical hit. This is nice for our Trumna, as it frees up a mod slot to use another crit damage mod like Bladed Rounds. Bladed Rounds also synergizes very well with Zephyr and her passive. Zephyr's passive gives you 150% flat critical chance while airborne, which obviously increases the damage of literally anything. Combine all these things together, including Roar on my Zephyr, and you get something that I literally cannot even show how much damage this does, because these enemies do not have enough health. Like, it's ridiculous. One final tip I have for you guys is to use the synth set mods on your companion. Right now I'm using a Volpaphyla for viral quills purposes and also because it doesn't die, but the synth set mods will reload 10% of your equipped weapon when it is holstered. That means that you can shoot some of your Trumna, and then if you pull out another melee such as the Zorus or literally whatever you're using, Epitaph as a primer, pull it back out, it'll be reloaded, which is really nice because the reload on the Trumna is really dang long. With all that being said and done, everybody, I hope that you can start to understand why the Trumna, literally from the second that I got it, has started to become one of my favorite weapons. Besides it just being ridiculously fun to use, because this thing is a literal arc gun that your Warframe can just use for free, It's actually really damn good. And also just having innate heat on literally any weapon is just so nice because heat is such a great status effect. So good. But besides that, I just want to say thank you so much for all the endless support, everybody. We are about to hit 3.5k, on the way to 4k, and yeah, we hit 5 and then we hit 10, and it's all up from there. The YouTube short that I put out recently actually also is doing really well, alongside the Equinox video being my best performing video in a couple like set time span I've ever done. I cannot thank you guys enough. I have a Discord that I would love for you to join. It'll be in the description this time. Kind of forgot last time. Besides that, again, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you, whether you have liked, whether you've subbed, whether you just watch these videos because you want some nice builds to use. You're all wonderful, and I just want to say thank you. So I will see all you guys in the next one. Peace.